We're down here at the cabin where we're going to have a look at some of the influences we see from Africa in our culture. And to start off with, we're going to look at some items on this table. These are all plants that are native to Africa. I should say this one at the front, these are sweet potatoes. While sweet potatoes are not native, they're very similar to yams, and I know a lot of people here call yams sweet potatoes, but yams are from Africa. This is okra. A long time ago during the Civil War, when they couldn't get coffee in the South, they actually used okra seeds and dried them and ground them up and roasted them for coffee. I don't think Starbucks has any issue or any worry with that because there's no caffeine in okra, but that was a substitute at one point. These are sesame seeds, also known as benne, B-E-N-N-E. If you've ever had benne wafers, they have sesame in them. Black-eyed peas are a type of legume from Africa. Coffee is from Africa. And then these are gourds. So there are all kinds of different shaped gourds that you can grow. These are bottle gourds. And you can see that we took the top off of this one and this one as well. And what you would do is clean them out, wax them, and then you could put a cork or a stick that you whittled on the top and make that as a water bottle. This is a sweetgrass basket. If you've lived in South Carolina anytime, I'm sure you've seen these. While sweetgrass is not native to Africa, the art form is. And so this is an art form from Africa where people would take a thin grass, and in Africa they would have a similar one, but this grows in South Carolina. This is the ripe one that I've just picked, and then here's some that's dried. And this is a coiled basket, so it goes around in circles as opposed to this is a woven basket. So this is a coiled basket and a beautiful art form from Africa, so another influence that we see. Over here on the bed, there are a couple of things I want to show you. This is a musical instrument and it's called an ngoni, something that is not common here in America. But an instrument that would be common would be a banjo. Banjos are African instruments, and they were originally made from gourds. So this type of gourd, you would cut open, you would clean it out, and then could you imagine having a handle out to the side, like a wooden handle and strings on it? And this would be the base of a banjo. So a banjo, while you might be thinking of it being something common, say in Appalachian music or different types of Southern music, they are from Africa, made from gourds. All right, we'll look around on this table over here, and these items represent major cash crops, historic cash crops for South Carolina. We have rice. We have an example of wool that's been dyed with indigo. This is the plant. Cotton, and also tobacco. And so these plants, while only the rice on this table is from Africa, these plants were grown by people who had been enslaved from Africa. And you had many, many people that were brought through the port of Charleston and sold to plantations around South Carolina, down to Georgia, North Carolina, and they were the main workforce growing these cash crops back before the Civil War. All right, we're going to take a look down at the garden where we are growing some rice, the same rice, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it when we get down there. All right, students, so this is the Carolina gold rice, and we have it growing in an imitation rice paddy. Of course, this will be growing along the coast of South Carolina. Paddies would have been dug out of marshy areas, an extremely labor-intensive job to get those paddies, to get those planting areas ready. And they would have been flooded with water as the tides would rise, and then the fields would be drained periodically when the tides were falling. This was not something that was done every day, but the tides, as they rise and fall, that would be used to either fill or drain your rice paddy. So Carolina gold rice is a very, very old species of rice. It comes from Africa. I know a lot of people think of rice as coming from Asian countries, but this one comes from Africa. And this is the main type of rice that was grown in South Carolina in the plantations along the coast. We have talked about earlier that people who had been enslaved from Africa were the ones that were growing these cash crops, doing the actual labor. And people that were from, say, Sierra Leone, Senegal, along the west coast of Africa, also known as the rice coast, they had knowledge of how to grow this rice using the tidal method. Because of that knowledge, they drew a larger price, a greater price. And so people that were plantation owners who were purchasing slaves, it was more desirable to acquire a slave who was from that area because of their knowledge. All right, we're going to go and have a look at how we actually get the rice out of this little seed here that's on the end. All right, so we've seen the rice growing in our rice paddy, and once you harvest the rice, this is what you would do to actually get the grain of rice out. So I have some rice that has been taken off of the stalk. This is just the grains of rice, or rather the seed. When we plant it, we put this in the ground. But the rice, the actual grain of rice, is on the inside. So here's how you would get that out. You put the rice down in mortar and pestle. And so they would have a hollowed out log. This is hollowed out just to about right here. And then a stick, which is your pestle, and it's just rounded on the end. And as you hit the rice, it knocks the shells off. And you typically would have two people doing this, one on each side. And so as you hit it, like I said, it breaks off that shell. And so now you've got both things down in there. Now, I've just done it for just a few seconds here. This has actually been done for about 30 minutes to get this far. We want to be able to separate the two different parts. And so we don't want to be eating the shells, which is the chaff. We want to save the rice. And so we take the rice and the chaff out of the mortar here and put it in one of these baskets. This is called a winnowing basket. And you notice that this basket is very shallow. It's not very deep at all. And it's very wide, and that's what you want. And so what I'm going to do is toss this in the air a little bit, and we have a little bit of breeze that's just kicked up just perfect, and that is going to blow the chaff off of the rice. So let's see what happens here. So you might be seeing that the rice is falling back down. Let me get in the shadow here. The rice is falling back down into the basket, and the chaff, which is lightweight, is blowing off on the ground. All right, let's see what we end up with. You can see that there's quite a lot that still has the shell on it. And so this is not ready. This has to go back in and have more done to it. But eventually you would end up with just rice in your basket. So I hope this has been informative as we've taken a look at different cultural influences that we see from Africa. We have just barely scratched the surface. If you've got some questions, I'm going to have you enter those in the chat box in just a little bit. And thanks for coming down to the Living History Farm today.